Yeah, there's a Winnipeg connection to the Sandy Hook, Connecticut shooting. Young girl. Her dad is a jazz musician and was a professor at the University of Manitoba, which is the university where Kyle's working right now with the new stadium being built. And just last year, they decided to move back home to Connecticut. I don't know what else to say. You know, it's hard to take. And then for those of you who have young kids or have kids or grandkids like myself, it hits close to home when you realize that these kids did nothing. They had their whole lives ahead of them. The innocence of youth, and it's a tragedy that it was lost, that their lives were lost. And it's not just the 20 kids and 4 or 6 victims or something, 5 victims and the gunman. I don't call him a victim. Well, I guess he is a victim in a way because something was definitely wrong with him. Watching people grieve about this, and of course we're only seeing the American and Canadian feeds, especially the Americans. We have a bit of a connection with Winnipeg being a place where one of those kids was living just as recently as last year. The Americans feel it, and we've had a couple school shootings here. Not in Winnipeg per se, but in Canada. And there's just no way that you can let that not affect you. It's going to affect people, and it tears at you. And I don't know the solution. Nobody does. There are varying opinions of it. And of course, in a previous video I mentioned that the Americans have differing opinions of guns, and Canada, they have differing opinions, and Americans and Canadians have differing opinions between countries. There are those out there that they'll fight to the death for their guns, literally. And I don't blame them. There are people that'll fight to the death to get rid of guns, and I don't blame them. Now, my personal stand, however irrelevant it is guns have their purpose, obviously. You don't need guns to fill your pocket when you're walking down the street. There are people that say, I have the right to protect myself. Well, yes, you do. And the fact that you're saying that goes to show that how many times have you been confronted where you had to use your gun, or someone used a gun on you and killed you. Obviously, you've got a better chance of winning the lottery likely than, well, maybe not, but it's getting worse out there. Personally, yes, I have fired guns. I was in the Canadian Military Army Reserve just around the end of high school for almost a year. And then I got a discharge for a medical discharge because I needed some surgery, and they let me go. My dad had guns. He used to hunt when he was a boy. Back in the 30s and 40s, he had basically a 22 caliber rabbit rifle, or small game rifle, and he would use that and go hunting with a friend or friends of his once in a while. But he also had 2 handguns, and those handguns are now prohibited in Canada. Just AJ texting me saying he's on the way. We gotta both have appointments at the same hospital today, so we're gonna carpool. Yeah, these are prohibited weapons in Canada. So when my dad died, prohibited weapons have to be destroyed. Problem was, or was, I should say, they were my grandfather's. My grandfather, I think it was my grandfather, or my great-grandfather, one of the two. I always get the stories mixed up. He was a member of the Irish Constabulary over in United Kingdom before he came to Canada. And one was his service revolver and one was his backup, apparently. I never knew my grandfather because he died in the 40s. So I had little connection to him. Basically nothing. So for years I've asked my dad that I wanted those guns, and while he was alive he could have transferred them over to me, and then I could have kept them. But he kept thinking he was going to destroy them. Whenever they had an amnesty or whatever, like they were registered, he was registered to own them and everything, and I went and got my registration to own them. But we just, for whatever reason, never got around to transferring them, although he was dead set against guns, and I can't say I am, but I'm not. So when he died, we only had 2 options available to us. We couldn't do anything with the guns. We couldn't even take them to surrender them to the police, because the minute they left the house, we were screwed. We were breaking the law. So we had to call and get someone to pick them up to have them destroyed. We couldn't transfer them to anybody else. They had to be destroyed, so you had to call the police and have them come and get them. The other alternative was to find a gunsmith that had a license to transport prohibited weapons and to possess prohibited weapons for the purpose of, partaking in his craft as a gunsmith. And the gunsmith could disable them permanently. So that's the route we took. We actually took called a guy. We found him through the local firing range and got we'll let the dogs in. Got the handguns and actually the little 22 caliber rifle as well. We got them both picked up, or all 3 of them, I should say, and he plugged the barrels. Come on. And disabled the firing pins and locked the breeches and everything that had to be done. So they are basically paperweights now, even the rifle, because I'm not going to go hunting, especially with my health. The handguns were so old and there was wear in them, so they were really not safe to use anyway. So I had them decommissioned, and someday I'll dig them out and show you. They're buried in my. They're buried back in my die-cast car room. So, in that case, yeah, I like guns because they were part of my past, part of the history of my family. Just the rabbit gun is, neither here nor there, but the handguns were my grandfather's, and I never met him, so, I had more want for those. We're seeing more murders in Winnipeg now, and Winnipeg for the last few years has unfortunately become kind of the world, or not the world, but the murder capital of Canada, and which is really odd. We most would have thought maybe Montreal, where there's also mafia influence, and Toronto, which is the biggest city in Canada, or Vancouver, where there's a lot of diversity, a lot of gang stuff going on there. But there's a little bit of a gang war going on here, so people are getting shot and killed. I think we're averaging 40 or 50 a year in Winnipeg. Senseless. It's just senseless. But if anyone else knows the answer to these school shootings and these mall shootings and random shootings, there are people that say, guns don't kill people, people kill people. Well, people kill people using guns, so you take one part out of the equation and you lessen the problem. You don't need a gun to walk down the street in case the one time in your life you're going to get robbed. Nothing is worth your life. If they want to take your car, let them take your car. If they want to take your wallet and your credit cards, let them take it. Let them take it all. It can be replaced. Lives can't. So, as long as there are people feeling that they have the right to AJ's here, so the dogs are going crazy. Anyway, as long as people feel entitled to own guns, there's going to be those out there that are entitled to use them, and that comes into a problem. So, my condolences to everybody in Connecticut there. It's a terrible, terrible thing. And see, Crew now recognizes who it is. So, I'm going to let you go. I've had my rant. Take it easy. Have a good one. Beautiful day. Okay. You guys call them warm starts or cold starts, and I'm going to say this is not quite so cold start. it's not zooming in. Or it's zoomed way in. Sorry about that. You sit there. There you go. -9. It's gorgeous out. Not quite so cold start. With the helping of Amber scraping the windows. Defrost. And it's really quite nice out. A little bit of fog or frost on the trees. Now this looks quite peaceful when it's like this. Yeah, it's really quite nice out. When the trees get like this, it really looks nice. You know, it just, you can't beat it. And being in the town we're in, really no noise. No, not a lot of town, because there's not a lot of activity in town. You know, the only other activity on the street is one of Canadians' pastimes. Shoveling. So, yeah, that what he's using there is called a snow scoop. It saves your back because you just push it, and as it loads up, you just keep pushing, and when you get to the end, you just kind of give it a jerk back, and you never have to actually lift it up. If you have to dump it and you can't slide the stuff off, you just kind of stand it up on edge. So you're not really fully lifting the snow. Saves your back. So, back in a bit.